I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next, the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am talking with Sara and Isabel of instrumental duo Mellowdeath, who have just recently released their debut full-length record, self-titled Mellowdeath, on Cruel Nature Records. And if you're watching the video and you're wondering why I'm wearing a scarf, I'm not a hipster, although some people would say I'm a hipster, but I have shingles. It's not my favorite. So for that reason, I'm going to keep this introduction as brief as possible. But this was an interview that I was really keen to do. I sort of discovered this release a little bit late. Usually I like to try and put these out when the album isn't out yet. But yeah, I really wanted to talk to Isabel and Sara, because as soon as I heard this record, I really, really liked it. It's kind of, sort of, and the cover art by Chloe Grove, an artist in Berlin, who in fact has an antique shop there, which you can go and visit, which is called Death Antiques. I feel like the cover art really captures very well the kind of music that the duo play on a combination of bass and drums, although this album actually has various different guest members, but it's a sort of jazz inspired or jazz influenced rock style with kind of, it's got a sort of surreal element. And I compared them to a sort of a Brothers Grimm environment there. It's very sort of evocative in the absence of singing and lyrics. It transports me into a sort of a dark fairy tale world, which I really, really enjoy. So I strongly suggest you check it out, and I will in fact play a track from the album at the end of the interview with a little clip coming up in a moment. The duo are going to be playing a couple of shows in Berlin, if you happen to be around there, on the 11th of December and the 13th of December. The 11th is going to be at a venue called Trickster, and you can go check the band out on Instagram and find the details there. I don't see anything online about the show on the 13th, but yeah, go follow the band for more information there. I think what they said in the interview is that the location is slightly kind of secret of the show for the 13th, and I've slightly forgotten the name, so I apologize for that. But if you listen to the interview, you'll get that. They are also, interestingly, going to be doing a performance of music to correspond with the silent movie, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And that is going to be on January the 31st, I think. And I'm afraid, again, in my weakened state, I've forgotten exactly where that's going to be. But stay tuned for that one as well. And if I mentioned or not, the album is out on Cruel Nature Records. You can get it on cassette, very beautiful looking cassettes. And you can also buy the album digitally from the band. In both cases, it's the various Bandcamp web stores. And I believe that I have said everything that needs to be said. Come check it out. They were both great fun to talk to. We talk about their music. We talk about the artwork. We talk about how they started making music together. There's a little bit of a funny story about how they first got together, and various insights about their experiences playing live shows, digital music, etc., etc. You can follow me on all social media at Tom Osman Sounds. You can go to my website, tomosmansounds.com. You can go to patreon.com/whatevercomesnext for some extended interviews and various other features. And I think that's it. So without further ado, Sara and Isabel, who are Mellowdeath. Take it away.
Living in a van, so it's not so much light here.
The light is good.
I'm
I can
looking.
see you well.
Okay, perfect.
It's a cool looking room, though.
Yeah, it's like a wagon. It's a really cool,
Yes.
like wood paneled, like awesomely designed wagon in kind of in the woods that Isabel lives in.
And are you both in Berlin?
No.
I
Ah.
am. I am in Berlin.
And whereabouts in Berlin are you?
I'm in, well, I live in Wedding. Right now I'm at a friend's in Neukölln, which is in the south, but I live in the north of Berlin called Wedding. And Isabel is 4 hours away from me.
Ah, okay. Ja, ich habe auch vor ein paar Jahren in Berlin gelebt, aber in der Nähe von Mauerpark.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I just wanted to throw a tiny bit of German in there to prove to myself I can do it, but that's all I've got.
In der Nähe von, yeah. Nicely done. Yeah. The city that Isabel's living in is called Bielefeld, and people joke that it doesn't exist. That's just like a little running joke in Germany that it's a fake place. So you can believe what you want.
Okay. Well, that, this, in a way, this kind of fits your music, because I feel like your music as Mellowdeath is kind of like a sort of, I don't know, it's like a modern day Brothers Grimm fairy tale. That's kind of what I feel like I'm in when I listen to it.
That's great. I really like that comparison.
So talking about the album, which is coming out on Friday, which I've been listening to and really enjoying, I feel like with instrumental music, when it's done well and when it's effective, not having any voice and not having any lyrics can be an advantage, because it gives the listener the chance just to like have their own story to go with it. And I was thinking, with a track like, I'm going to have to look at this because my German vocabulary is not good enough to remember words like this. Verfolgungsjagd?
Mm-hmm.
So that means chase in English, I believe. And when I listen to that song, well, I listen to that track, I feel like it is a chase, like it's kind of from a spy movie or something like that. And I was wondering, for you, when you're making this music, do you have sort of like, do you visualize a sort of story to go with it, or it's just you're feeling the music and just playing the way that you feel?
It's always different. So the songs are how we make the songs. It's always different because we're living so far away. So sometimes I made a song structure on bass at home, and then I bring it to Berlin. And then I have, when I'm making it in the practice room, I have some ideas what pictures I have when I'm making a bass riff, or I'm also working with a lot of effects. So and then we're talking about that in the practice room, and so in that case, I don't know. I had the idea of cars are driving behind them, and there's this Verfolgungsjagd in German. So yeah,
Like a chase scene in a movie. Like you imagine this kind of like very high action sort of like, yeah, car chase with like explosions and like high tension and stuff like that.
So with the two of you living sort of far apart, from a practical point of view, how do you sort of find the time regularly to make music together or to play together?
not so often.
It's really not regular. Here and there, when we have shows, we meet and we try to rehearse a couple times, like for a couple days before the show. And then during those couple of days, usually a new song gets finished. And other than that, like sometimes I think as many as 6 months have passed, but sometimes it's as frequent as every month or every 2 months. It's really, the pace is not predictable. It's different all the time. We just had a really nice weekend of where we were preparing a live score for a film that we're going to do at the end of January for the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. So that was like a really nice reason to meet and have like an intensive work session. So it's sort of like, yeah, it's dependent on like what we're doing, what we're preparing for, and new music is happening along the way.
And that's interesting what you say there about the score for the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. This reminds me of, I don't know if you're familiar with, I think they're from Seattle, a band called Sleep Bomb, and they do soundtracks to silent movies a lot of the time. I think they've actually done a soundtrack for that movie, and they've done, now off the top of my head, I can't remember others. And they tend to they'll do performances at theaters where they'll play the movie on the screen and they'll play the music along to it. So is that a similar kind of thing to what you'll be doing?
Yeah, it's the first time that we're doing it as a band together, but I don't remember, Isabel, if you have experience with it from before, but I've done it with a couple of other bands already, and I really enjoy it as a format. And in this case, the film is I feel like our music is very suited to it. Just our first run through without any preparation was like very smooth and very, it fit really, really nicely. But I don't know, Isabel, have you done that before? I can't remember.
Only performance stuff, but with films, never. I did performance stuff with own films. I'm also was working as a performance artist a long time ago. And I did own films and made music with a theremin and other instruments to my own films.
Yeah.
But with this genre, I never did something. But a lot of people always tell us when they come to our shows that they have the impression that we're making film music. So, and that they see a lot of pictures and have a lot of feelings and emotions when they see us playing our music. And so we, some time ago, we were talking in the practice room about that, and Sara had the idea, maybe we can do something like this one times. And I have a friend who's working in an independent cinema, and she said, yeah, that's a great idea. Let us do that. So now we have this possibility to do that.
I do want to ask you more about your music as Mellowdeath, but now that you've talked about various different instruments, I'd like to get a bit of history from you both about your musical background. So Isabel, you mentioned the theremin. What is kind of what's your story as far as like the first instrument that you learned and your musical story?
Yeah, I started very late in school with 19 years with guitar and making punk rock music, because I had a very good friend, and she said, what will we do? She said, I will play drums. And I said, oh, I will play guitar. I think that could be cool. And then we started making music with a punk band. So I started with bass. And then later I also was a singer and also a drum player a little bit. And then I started with bass. And so now it's my main instrument, but I'm also playing other instruments. Like in the recordings, I'm playing xylophone. It's a MIDI controller with a xylophone. It's there here. Maybe you can see it behind me.
Okay, yeah.
The first time I'm seeing it too. I actually had no idea what it looked like. Whenever you said xylophone, I was like, what on earth?
You're playing it with mallets, and it's a MIDI controller, and then you have sounds on. I'm playing with Logic. So I have another project where I'm also doing other kind of music. So, but I also was a singer in a theater, but now my main thing is playing bass. So, yeah.
And what was it like for me personally? I started out with guitar, and I've sort of dabbled in different things. And at a certain point, I was making music with a friend, and neither of us played bass, and we wanted to have bass in our music. So we both went, all right, we better learn bass guitar now. So like I do in my closet, sadly a little bit neglected and gathering dust, but I do have a bass guitar, and I do like playing bass. So because through like the various different instruments that you've played, what is it about playing bass that particularly draws you?
Yeah. Because it's, for me, it's the mixture of drums and guitar, because it's more, I love deep tones. So, and the guitar, it I don't know, I lost, one day I lost the feeling for the guitar. So, and in one project I was playing drums, guitar, and bass. We were changing all the time. It was a riot punk band. And then after that, after we quit it, the band was at the end. I thought, yes, bass is really my instrument, my main instrument. I also playing some ukulele when I'm working with kids, but the bass is really the thing what is mine.
Yeah, I understand.
It's like an extension of you, Isabel. I always feel like it's just kind of part of your body.
And Sarah, I was thinking, so I was expecting you to have a German accent, but you sound kind of American to me. And yet your surname looks like it could be quite German. And I was thinking, looking at some of the bands that you've played in, I saw that you played with or you were in the Brian Jonestown Massacre. And I was thinking, you've got an interesting musical history. So I wonder if this involves living in various different countries as well.
Yeah, I'm from Philadelphia, but all the Brian Jonestown work was here in Berlin. He lives here, like Anton, the front person, like
Okay, I didn't know that.
member of that band has a studio here in Berlin. So I recorded an album with him, and then I went on tour with them once for that album. But yeah, I mean, I have a bandmate still in New York. I don't know if you know. I think have you ever talked to Matt Hollenberg? Any of his projects? He's in like a bunch of John Zorn stuff, like Secret Chiefs 3 and like Cleric, Titans to Tachyons.
I haven't spoken to him, but there's like a couple of degrees of separation because I've interviewed Yowie and they've got members at the moment who were in Cleric and who have worked with John Zorn as well. So
yeah, so he's like my biggest musical tie to the US still. Like I always try to go back and write something with him every time I'm there. And then I've been living in Berlin since I was 22. So that's 13 years now that I've been here, pretty much my whole adult life.
And is there a German connection with your name?
No, it's a Jewish name, which a lot of them sound German. So
okay.
The whole long story behind that whole story.
So this is like I'm leading you off on a tangent before you answer my question, but how is your German?
Very good.
Yeah, Isabel keeps my German alive.
Very good.
I live in Berlin, so nobody speaks German here, including the Germans. They don't want to speak German with me because they want to practice their English. But since Isabel is doing it differently and living somewhere differently, I always speak German with Isabel, and that's why our song titles are mostly in German because we're communicating in German. So yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. And then, so in terms of your background, like when and with what did you start your musical journey?
Well, my early instruments are not so important to me anymore. Like I played piano a bit when I was like, very young, like 6 or something. And then I had like flute when I was like 9. Who knows what kind of crazy misadventure I was on. But then when I was 10, I found the drums, and then it was just immediately like, so I started, playing in bands with other kids by the time I was like 12 and performing by the next year. And I've never not had like a band or multiple bands ever since. So, and I had met Matt back in the day through a music school that he was teaching at and I was a student at the time in Philadelphia. And that's how, so like a lot of early band experiences formed when I was a kid, and now being here, I'm just kind of chasing after the people who I find interesting, and Isabel was one of the people I found interesting when I saw her perform with another project. And I'm trying to work in as many different genres as I can. That's sort of my current project. I was stuck in metal for a while, and it was honestly not that comfortable of a home for me. Of course, it's like where my roots are, and it's something I can do very comfortably, but I'm doing like a lot of free improv these days and just trying to bring in a lot of different influences and styles into the projects that I'm still in. So Mellowdeath is obviously not a easy to categorize project, and I think that's because we both have so many different backgrounds.
And in terms of that, of the sound that you've got, and of course having a drums and bass duo is not the most common lineup for a band either. Like, what was that kind of origin of forming Mellowdeath? How did you decide together that this is the kind of configuration you wanted and the kind of music that you wanted to make together?
I have another bass and drums duo here in my home city with a very old friend. It's now called No Chronicles, and it's now nearly, 18 years old. And so Sarah saw me in Berlin as we had a show there. And so she asked me if we can make music together after the show. And so I got her contact, and then I was searching her on internet, and then I thought, no, that's too heavy for me. Maybe I don't know, because I was so impressed of Sara's drumming, and so I didn't call Sara then after that, and we met for a coincidence. We met on a party 1 year later, and then Sara said, "I still want to make music with you," and then I said, "Okay." After 1 year, you still want to make music with me, so then let's meet together and make music. And then we met in the rehearsal room, and it also was a very energizing and special thing for me. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say like if we had a concept. We were just two people who happened to, like these are our instruments. We came together. We figured out where, I don't know, we figured out what we can do together. Like, what are the styles that we have fun with? I feel like at some point we realized, yes, something jazzy belongs there. Doom elements belong there because of all of the cool sounds that Isabel has on her pedal board and the way that she uses them. It was just clear, like, okay, this is we're going to fall into this as well. And then surf also, like, you use that Fender twin reverb amp, so that was very much a sound that you were making. Like it's sort of just like it came. I feel like a lot of it came from your palette of sounds through your pedal board and through your style, and and my style too. But it all just kind of like it came through experimentation, I think.
Yeah, I do. I like the little surf elements that come in from time to time. I feel like in your music, it's not exactly gothic. Like it's kind of, I guess maybe that's why I think of the Grimm's fairy tales, because there's something kind of sinister in a way, but it's also playful. Like it feels very much like something sort of like bouncing through the forests.
Mm.
We have that little picture. It's the inlay of our cassette, which is the burial of like a bunny puppet or something.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, we look very serious in that, but it's like a kid's puppet show. I mean, that was Isabel's concept. Isabel
Yes.
is the playful, the visual arts, yeah. She came up with that. I'll admit, it took me a while to warm to it. Sometimes we have our moments where I'm like, no, I can't. That's too silly for me. I can't do it. And then it just fits. It just like eventually I was like, oh, okay. Like that's the thing that actually works. But yeah, it's like I think sometimes it's kind of like we're testing each other's limits of, I don't know, like the limits of our like where humor and seriousness lies. I don't think that in certain kinds of music, like humor is really not the thing. It's like not allowed. It's not rewarded, let's say.
Like in raw black metal.
For example. Like we're definitely not in that boat, but like, yeah, it's like, I don't know, some people can't handle it. Like they're just like they look away from it or something. Like they're just like, no, not I can't even figure out how to talk about it in a way too, but it's kind of like I realize that's what we're doing. Like that, and I love that shit too. I love going to puppet shows. Like I love going to like carnivals and going to like the silly fun house, the Hall of Mirrors, and all of these kind of like fantastical things that are not really, you can say not really like serious or adult, but we're just we're playing with those elements. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Isabel, if you have any story you want to tell about that, since you put it together.
So I love not to if people listening to some kind of music, if it's doom music, a lot of people who like doom music also listening to our music, and I like to clash cliches. I also was playing one in a tutu from ballet and making some clowny things, and because I'm also coming a little bit from theater, I also had a theater background and performance background, and So I was thinking about what could be a picture for our new album, and then I had the idea: who is Mellow? Mellow can be a puppet, and Mellow is dead. So Mellow dies, and so this puppet. And then when I'm in an idea, I'm getting very crazy, and I have an idea for a video and what can happen with Mellow. And there's a
Funeral.
funeral, maybe, and I built this little thing of wood for Mellow, who's dead.
The coffin. Yeah, you built the coffin.
Yes, and it was a lot of work. So then, when I have an idea, I often put a lot of energy inside and have a lot of ideas. But then I'm here in Bielefeld, and I have all the ideas. Sara is in Berlin, and then maybe my crazy ideas. How Sara told it, it's not so fitting because I was totally fan of this idea. So to make the cover with this Mellow. So it was not our idea together. So yeah, it's not so easy to. You're also making music, Tom. I was following a little bit before we start this interview what you are doing. So it's never easy in a band to make decisions for the name. It starts with the name. That's always,
name is sometimes the hardest thing.
It's always it takes. I had once a band. It took 1 year until we had a name. So it's always not so easy and we are only 2 persons. So, but it's not so easy to come to the point where how to make everything what is back. In making music, everything is clear, but the things around, it's sometimes it's not so easy to make decisions. How the artwork will be, for an example. Yeah, or the name of an album or everything like that. So
yeah. Well, from that point of view, once you have the name of the band, if you make the name of the album the same as the name of the band, then you save yourself some stress.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There were many other ideas, but now
it almost had many other names along the way, but we came back to this.
Sticking on the topic of the visuals, so you have this very fitting cover, which is from Chloe Grove, who I believe is actually in Berlin. So how did that relationship come about?
I found her studio. It was on the same street as another friend's studio. In Neukölln, there's the street Emserstraße, which has quite a few artist studios on it. And this was just something I completely randomly stumbled upon while visiting a friend on my way to a jam. And it happened to be open. It's a shop. It's called Death Antiques. And it's really just like her artwork, all kinds of things she's created, clothing, sculptures, a lot of other screen printed stuff, paintings, mosaics. And it was totally spectacular. And she's a total character. And she lives with pigeons as well. She has 2 wild pigeons roaming the space. They have free run of the space. It's really their space more than it's any humans. And I saw this image was like something, it's slightly modified from the original version, but it was something that basically already existed because she has these stencils.
Yeah, I've noticed like they sort of I've looked at some of her different designs and I've seen something very similar.
Yes, so she has a lot of these stencils of these like demon creatures who are like slithering around and in different formations, and so she'll use them in different configurations in her work, and it's kind of like a whole universe of these interesting creatures. And I just felt like it fit our vibe. It felt like, oh, these can be us. Like these two creatures are kind of us and kind of our music and something that lives in the world of our music. So yeah. We had fun. We had some fun working with her.
Thinking about going back a little bit to I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago that you started working on the album. So tell me a bit about that time. You had your first EP came out in 2018.
Yeah, we made that pretty quick, relatively quickly after the time that we formed. So,
And obviously I mean, I say obviously, but not for other people that aren't familiar with the album, but you have a lot of guests on it as well. So what was that process all like in kind of writing the music, deciding you were going to get these different people involved with it, getting the guests in, figuring out how they were going to be a part of it, and the steps towards where you are now with having the album coming out in a few days?
yeah, I mean, this was a longer process, that's for sure. Some of these people we worked with along the way. Hecla, for example, was the first person we worked with. She plays on the last track of the album, the theremin. And that was a lot of fun. She only lived here for kind of a short stretch and then she moved back to Iceland. But when she lived here, we had a fun time playing a couple shows with her and then reached out to her later. Marco is a guitarist, Marco Bianchiardi, who lives in Berlin, Italian guitarist. So he's played a lot of shows with us and we've had a lot of jams with him and he's developed parts for those songs as well as a song from our EP. So we love having him in the live process and it felt natural to ask him as well. Matt was my connection. Matt Hollenberg was my connection from my other project, Saratma. Florian, I saw play at like an experimental venue. Florian Juncker, he was the trombonist. Rachel also, like, yeah, they're all people from various other places. Like Rachel Glassberg was playing in a band that played a show with Mellowdeath. Like we played a show at this band Point No Point. She was doing synths for them. And I was like, oh, she's awesome. Like, let's see what she wants to come up with for our music. So it was something that I don't really remember how exactly the idea came about. I think it like really just started from like the fact that we had already done some live collaborations with people, which, and it felt like, yeah, why not have some of this plus some more collaboration on the record. I'm not sure. We had one collaborator on the EP as well. This other guitarist, Francesco Fusco. He played on Dances with Death. So we had already like dipped our toes into the idea of having a guest musician in our first recording. And yeah, I thought it's, a recording is one thing, like it's one version of what we do. It doesn't always correspond to or reflect what's going to happen live. Like maybe there will be different guests, maybe there will be no guests. It's different every time. But yeah, it's just like it was kind of an experiment in some sense and fun to figure out this kind of spirit of collaboration. Occasionally very challenging too. Things took a long time, but I'm happy that we have their voices on the album.
And for you, Isabel, like what was that like, your part in sort of coordinating this project?
So I didn't brought another persons to the project. It was more Sarah's idea. And when we're playing shows, the directions are very different. There are people who see us with guests and without guests, and there are people who say with guests it's better or more interesting or cooler. But there are also people who say when we are only a two-piece band, it's more interesting and more intensive. So the reactions are very different. It's also a lot of fun to play with Rachel and with Marco. So for me, but I also really love it only to play with Sarah, because then I think it's more intensive, the thing, what is between us when we're only two persons. And this pure bass drum thing, I really love and enjoy.
And you're planning as well at some point to put out a version of the album that's just the two of you together, is that right?
Yes.
And is that going to be with like the recordings from this album, or are you going to separately?
No, because we did the recordings only with together. So and then the recording is there, but it will be another mix. the mix from the first recording, the first EP. I made the recording. I'm also working a little bit like a sound engineer with my own projects. And so only the mastering a friend of mine did of the first IP. And so on this, just the new album was made from other persons who made the recordings and the mastering and everything. But I will do my own mix of the pure bass and drum recordings.
And now that we've talked, or you've brought up the live side of things a bit, I was interested to ask you both about your experiences playing together live. So I've seen that you've obviously played in Germany. You've played in a few other countries as well. I used to live in Prague before I lived in Germany for 5 years. I don't know if you've played in Prague, but I think you've played together in Czech Republic. Is that right?
Yeah, we played in Prague. We had a show at Cross Club. You know that place, the kind of steampunk decorated bar?
As soon as you say steampunk, yes.
Yeah, that's the spot. We did do a fun show in Prague and have played in Vienna. I can't remember. There haven't been so many other spots, honestly, but we're always open to doing more touring. It's just so much work to really book. Like we need a booker.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I do like to ask people various sort of like practical questions about the sort of music business. So from that point of view, like now that you've brought up needing a booker, like what kind of insights can you give me about both of your involvement in terms of like booking shows? If you want to go and play in a different country, how have you tended to like put that together? Have people come to you and said, we'd like you to play a show? Or have you sort of gone out to go, right, we want to do a tour and we want to try and go to these different places, and then you organize it yourselves?
A lot of the time it comes from working with other bands. Like the times that we've been out and about playing short tours, short runs, it's been with friends of ours, like Atom Womb, right, and Earth Tongue. So there have been, or Funk Off, this is like Dresden-based friends of ours who book us. So we have like some friends who repeatedly are asking us to play, and that's nice. But otherwise, yeah, I do the booking in Berlin, and Isabel does some booking more in her region of the country. And it's hard. I don't like it.
It's getting harder and harder. I don't know how it is in England, because all these independent clubs don't get any money anymore. In the Corona time, it was great. We played so many shows. And then after the Corona time also, and now they in Germany, they start to cut all the money, and a lot of really nice independent places, they have to close and can't do any show, experimental shows. They only can do big shows where a lot of people will come. And so I also tried to organize something in my city when we do this with the cabinet of the Dr. Caligari. But it's so, in my own city, it's nearly impossible to find a place who can do and this weekend show. So no money at the time.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with the funding structures in Germany. Because remember, a couple of times we played festivals like it was called like Zukunftsvisionen in Görlitz, or there was one, I think it was in Potsdam. I can't remember. Yeah, it was like a progressive and jazzy and like cross genre festival. Like there have been a few of these things where like people have gotten funding to invite bands like us that are hard to categorize and that don't have a clear niche. And so we were able to travel to those festivals and get a decent fee for them. And then funding became much more scarce. So those little independently minded festivals don't seem to be happening in the same frequency or with the same support as before. So yeah, it's kind of like we're on our own without those folks reaching out. But I mean, things happen slowly. Also, we're both busy. We have other projects. We're sometimes traveling at different times. So there were a number of invites we got this year that we couldn't accept because of travels. Um, so we're working at our own pace, I guess you can say. But the new album's coming out, and we have Earsplit and Cruel Nature both are doing a bit of PR work, and hopefully, the fact that it'll be talked about a little bit might get the attention of some folks. I'm hoping, fingers crossed.
And on the topic of Cruel Nature, so I know that they're going to be doing a limited cassette run of the album as well. Like when you do play live or when you do tours, do you have merch? I don't know if you have like t-shirts and other things like that you sell when you play shows.
Oh yeah, we've got some shirts. You'll be seeing the work from that on the duo recording. Whenever that does come out, we have the artwork ready from our shirt print. And we will have these tapes. Yeah, Isabel sometimes burns some CDs with our music to sell at the shows, and yeah, we'll have this run of tapes from Cruel Nature, which are looking great. So
yeah, I really, from looking at the pictures, I really like them. The way that you've got the colored cassettes, and then you've got that illustration of you with the death of Mellow on the inside of it. So yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, thanks. And some cool art from Chloe on the front too. So we had a few alternative designs from her, which I'm happy that we're using for that.
On the topic of the physical side of things, I wanted to ask you this question, which is kind of like it was a current topic anyway, but it's particularly current now that more and more people are leaving Spotify because of their ghastly owner. So I was wondering in general for you too, whether about Spotify or, streaming music in general, what do you think about, the digitization and the online music world that we're in?
That was a tough decision about whether or not to put the album there on Spotify. I didn't feel good about it. I will say that. I remember the day I was submitting it to like the Music Hub, which is like the German thing that, yeah, in any case, you can select all the boxes of which platforms it's on. And I was clicking check and uncheck that box for like a full day. And ultimately I checked the box. I was just like, whatever, make it more available. Okay. All the evils. This is one of many. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's not. I mean, now it's really hard to sell music digitally. Like, I do feel like it's just getting worse and worse every year because everyone is just taking it for granted that you stream, you hear new music and you add it to your digital library on whatever, Apple Music or Spotify, and don't pay a penny for it. And that's becoming super normalized. So that bums me out, where I'm kind of like, okay, we're not going to see, unless we do some extensive touring, we're not going to see any money back from all that we've invested into making this album happen. So it feels kind of bleak. It feels like a bummer. I don't know what to say. I'm not a fan.
Isabel, what are your personal thoughts?
I'm very old school. I would love to have vinyl. But it's so expensive. With a two-piece band, it's really not possible to make it. So, and we should have to play a lot of shows. So I think without a booking agency and a label who help us to make a album on vinyl, it's not so easy to make it. But I would love it. I never had Spotify. So
yeah, I don't have it either. I don't pay for it. I don't have a paid account.
So and I also don't have Facebook. I'm really old school. So with these things, with the new digital mediums, so yes, I like more have vinyl or cassette. So that's on all CD.
Yeah, I think at some point, Isabel, I think I'm going to be moving more into your direction, away from the digital side of things. But at the moment, it's kind of got me in its grasp. From thinking about then the release of the album and what's coming next. So I think at the moment I saw that you've got a show on the 11th of December in Berlin. What have you got lined up for the show? And do you have any other plans for playing and promoting the album after that? Or indeed before that?
That weekend, we will have an additional show at a small, experimental venue, the Alleridszeit Zone. that was just planned a couple of days ago through a friend. A friend has a show and wanted us to join her band to share the bill with us that night.
That'll be on the 13th,
That'll
will
be
it?
on the 13th. The 11th is Trickster, which is near Schlesisches Tor. We're not supposed to publicize the address because it's a secret venue, right? They're like not officially registered or whatever, but they've been existing for a million years and are one of my favorite venues to play. We've played there like 3 times already. So yeah, that's on the 11th. And then we have our Caligari gig on January 31st, which, I mean, that's honestly the main thing I want to work on developing as a band, is getting more live scoring gigs and playing at cinemas rather than underground venues for the foreseeable future. If folks want to book us, of course, please, please book us.
Glasgow, yes.
Yeah, get us,
Great
take us to
idea.
Glasgow.
We would come.
Yeah, it's just so much work. Like if nobody in a band has a strong feel for that side of it, for the booking and promotion, then it's easy for a band to just be a secret project, a practice room project, like that writes and records. And yeah, it's like it would be easy for us to become that, but we don't want to. We both love playing live, so it's just we need some folks to get us out there.
Years ago, it was much easier because you were writing to the clubs, and now the clubs getting millions of asking of bands who want to play there, and if you don't have the contact of the person who is doing the booking, it's not possible. I was talking with a lot of bands about that, and there are some people who, how Sara told it, if there's someone in the band really writing every day, going on the nerves of the. So, but it's I don't know. It's not for me. It's I don't know. You need a name of a personal name and a personal contact. When you only have the name of the clubs, it's not possible to come in there. And people change. I had a lot of contacts, and then people were organizing concerts. Now they stopped to organize concerts. And yes, I really love playing shows, but it's sometimes someone found you, and tomorrow I'm also playing a show with my other bands, and I got contacted. So they asked us if we want to play there in Münster, another city 100 kilometers from my city. So it happens sometimes that someone call you and ask you.
I mean, I think that we also lost momentum because we didn't release anything since 2018. So, a 7-year release gap will have an impact on how much you're going to be invited. So fingers crossed, we got a release now, and the momentum hopefully will follow.
Well, I'm not in any way a booking agent, but if you do decide that you want to come to the UK and I can help in any way to provide any kind of information or contacts, I'm more than happy to help out in any way I possibly can. There's a band that I interviewed, kind of quite different. They're sort of like a gothic cabaret folk band, but in a way I think not a million miles away in some essence, a duo, and they're actually based in Brooklyn in America, and they came through to the UK recently. And they're very DIY in the sense of booking their own tour and playing around. They play lots of really interesting, unusual places and unusual venues. So I kind of think like, if they could do it, you could do it. But like you say, it does require having someone who's sort of willing to take on that role of all that kind of logistical organization, unless you have a booking agent.
Mm.
Yeah, we'd love to come to the UK. So don't be surprised if we write you an email.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All we have to do is we just have to put that energy out into the universe, and then, do a lot of hard work, but maybe the universe can facilitate it. Anyway, Sara, Isabel, it was great to meet you. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm a big fan of the music, and I hope in my tiny, tiny corner of the underground music world that I can guide some people towards it. And then, hopefully we will see each other again, whether in Glasgow or Berlin or somewhere else around the world.
Thanks, Tom. It was really nice to talk to you. I really appreciate you gave our music this attention.
My pleasure.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. Thank you.